I've always been a curious kid, and that curiosity has only grown as I've gotten older. I created so many experiments in my laboratory. Not only did I build the lab with my own two hands, but I also keep it a secret from my family. A few days ago, however, something happened that I still haven't been able to explain. I was in the lab late at night, working on a new project. Tinkering with my latest invention, I noticed something in the corner of the ceiling. It didn't look like a cobweb or dust particle, it looked oddly like an asteroid. What is this? I grabbed a step ladder, climbed up to the spot, and then carefully removed the object. As soon as I did, a loud beeping sound filled the room. Stumbling backward, I dropped the object as the loud sound intensified. This can't be an asteroid! The beeping is too loud! As the object continued to beep louder and louder, however, I noticed something peculiar about it. It seemed to be vibrating and emitting strange energy. Rushing to my lab, I grabbed a few tools and hastily examined the object. Running some tests, I quickly discovered that this object wasn't an asteroid at all. The monitor I had attached to it soon began displaying lines of some sort of foreign code that the device was emitting on repeat. As I stared at the screen, I suddenly realized that this was some sort of alien AI device. Brilliant, brilliant! I must run some tests and figure out what this device is all about. Grabbing my monitor and pressing the translate button, the code on the screen began to rearrange into a readable format for me. As I read the code, however, I felt my heart start to race. On the monitor in front of me, there were lines of code displayed in an almost perfect manner, detailing the day-to-day life of my parents and my sister. My family was being controlled by this device. Nein, this can't be happening! How could this have gone unnoticed? As I stumbled backward in shock, however, the device suddenly began to move. It shook, oscillating on the table like some sort of possessed object, and the beeping sound intensified. The code on the monitor I had connected to the device began to change, and I heard the beeping noise from the object begin to morph into something I could understand.
Kill Dexter. Kill Dexter. Kill Dexter.
As it grew louder and louder, I heard a commotion from the door of my laboratory. Loud bangs and shouts from outside rose up, and I quickly glanced toward my security cameras. My family stood in front of my laboratory door, banging repeatedly at it.
Open the door, Dexter! Open the door!
It was my sister who spoke, looking directly into the camera as though she was talking directly to me. How long had this AI been able to control my family? As I moved closer to the door, I heard the laughter of my parents. I had to get rid of the AI. Turning, I grabbed a hammer from the wall of my laboratory and smashed the device. The beeping stopped, and the room grew silent. After a few moments, I heard my sister's voice from outside the door.
What happened? Were you able to do it?
Yes, I'm coming, Didi! I threw open the door, possibly too overjoyed over the fact that I had smashed the object to even consider the possibility of my family attacking me. As soon as I opened the door, however, I realized the mistake I had made. My sister stood there, my parents behind her. She held a knife in her hand, and her face was twisted into a maniacal grin.
Kill Dexter. Kill Dexter.
Didi, stop! Her mouth moved on its own as she spoke, black liquid dripping from her eyes as she advanced on me. My parents stood behind her in some sort of trance, but she was the only one who spoke.
Kill Dexter!
And with that, she lunged forward. I was barely able to spring out of her way, running deeper into my laboratory as I heard her screams growing louder and shriller. I ran desperately, hearing her footsteps directly behind me. Grabbing a cart with tools on it and pushing it in her path, I turned and began to climb a ladder to the top of the lab. When I looked down, I saw her face only a few feet behind me. Her eyes were completely black now, but liquid still dripped from the gaping holes. Get away from me! Stay back! I continued to climb the ladder till I reached the top, sweat dripping from my forehead and my heart pounding. My sister was only seconds behind me, so I began to run again, not looking back. I searched desperately for a way out, and suddenly I saw a vent. It was a duct I had installed a while back, one that I had forgotten about until now. I opened the vent and crawled inside, pushing through the darkness. I turned several times as it split off into multiple paths, unsure where I was even going. Finally, I came into a small, empty room, and I could just make out a dim light in the corner. I hopped out of the vent and hid in one of the corners of the room, my breathing heavy. I could hear thudding, the unmistakable noise of someone crawling through the vents. I scoffed, though, confident she would never find me. There were far too many twists and turns for her to follow. As I laughed silently to myself, however, I felt a sudden splash of liquid on my face. Turning my head slowly upward, I saw a sight I can only describe as horrifying. There, hanging off of the ceiling of the room, was my sister. Her eyes were still black, and the liquid was dripping from her mouth now.
Gotcha!
9! Stay back! But it was too late. She dropped from the ceiling, knife still in hand, and advanced on me. She was only inches away when I managed to grab one of the boxes I had hidden near, tossing it at her and tripping her backward. I ran from my room, sliding once more into the vent system. My parents were still nowhere to be found when I got back to my laboratory. As I did, however, I welded the vent shut and then I through-latched the door of the lab itself. They're still probably out there, trying to get back in. I can hear Dee Dee's screams through the walls, and I'm afraid she'll get in. I just hope that my parents aren't already somewhere.